Namaskar and welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. With the brutal Udaipur killing and similar incidents elsewhere, security agencies have become alert to the fact that our Tier 2, Tier 3 cities may be on the target of global terror outfits. Is this the new formula that enemies of the nation are adopting to destabilize our peace? We will talk about this in detail, but first up, what made news? The education system implemented by the British did not reflect the Indian ethos in any way. It was designed to create sevaks or servants. This was emphasized by Prime Minister Narendra Modi while addressing a gathering of experts and academics in the Banaras Hindu University. PM Modi said the new education policy is not aimed at producing only degree holders but creating a manpower which is skilled to meet the needs of the future. The Eknath Shinde-led government sailed comfortably through the trust vote early this week, bagging more votes than was expected. CM Shinde and Deputy CM Devendra Fadnavis together won the support of 164 MLAs, while the Uddhav Thackeray-led Mahavikas Aghadi got 99. Thackeray has knocked at the Supreme Court, demanding disqualification of some of the MLAs and challenged the election of the new speaker. Meanwhile, news of resignations of Shiv Sena MPs, party functionaries and local body members continue to pour in through the week. Both common citizens and the seers of holy sites expressed shock over the controversial Kali poster as well as the attempt by some politicians to justify the same. While social media reflected the anger and pain of common Indians, the Dakshineshwar Kali temple management condemned the controversial poster as well as TMC MP Mahua Moitra's unsavory comments on the goddess. The poster has since been taken down by the museum in Canada, which received petitions from the Hindu community there. Multiple FIRs have been filed in various states against the filmmaker Leena Manimekkale. India's services sector expanded at its fastest pace in June as compared to the last 11 years. The S&P Global India Services PMI showed a rise from 58.9 to 59.2. This is the highest since April 2011 and well above the crucial 50-point mark. In an unfortunate development which sent shockwaves across continents, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe died in a fatal gun attack during an election campaign. Abe was a great friend of India and had close relations with the government and the people. Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the nation in expressing his deepest condolences to the departed leader. India is also observing a one-day national mourning in the memory of Shinzo Abe. From Udupi to Udaipur to Amravati, it is now becoming increasingly clear that the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities of the country are directly under attack. We know that India is on the radar of global merchants of terror for a long time, but this new phenomenon is making the situation much more worrisome. So, how serious is this new challenge for the security scenario of the country? And what do our experts think on this situation? And most importantly, how can common Indian citizens like you and me help in fighting this global menace of terror which keeps changing its forms, its faces and its sources every single time? To get some answers to these questions, I have a very special panel of guests here with me this evening, here on Media Scan. Allow me to introduce to you Bikram Singh, noted top cop, former DGP, known for speaking his mind clearly and saying it as it is. Mr. Vikram Singh, welcome back to Media Scan, sir, and hope we are going to have a fruitful discussion with the benefit of your perspective.
Thank you so much, Smitaji. It's a privilege and honor as always. God bless.
Also with me this evening, noted journalist and expert on internal security and related issues, someone who has the credit of a string of breaking stories in his name, Vicky Nanjappa, my second guest for the evening on Media Scan. Welcome back to Media Scan, Vicky.
Thank you, Smitaji. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And Vicky, before I come back to Vikram Singh ji for his analysis of this entire situation, my first question comes to you. I was just reading your report, the way you have reported how the intelligence agencies are seized of the matter of the fact that it is increasingly the mid-level, the lower-level cities in our country, those far back in the hinterland, which are now on the radar of the global terror networks. So according to you, what has been found in this entire scenario? What are the highlights of your report, and should we really be worried about it?
Worried, Smitaji, yes, definitely worried, because it's a kind of a new situation for us. But globally, it's not a new situation. If we go back to the Nice attack, which happened in France, it was a very similar. It was after Paris. The thing is, what was surprising is that I mean, as been written in the copy, that you can't provide man-to-man intelligence or something like that. But in the case of both Udaipur as well as Amravati, in Amravati they tried to close it as a case of dacoity, and in Udaipur they were forewarned about it. The problem what tends to happen is that when we live in bigger cities, say Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, these cities, what happened? Generally a little more level of alert. The agencies are much more alert in this place. And now what the thing has started happening is this bane of social media as well as the WhatsApp forwards. We in cities, we have fact checkers, etc. In these smaller towns, these WhatsApps become gospel truths and things like that, and that is why they're able to penetrate so deep, put out so many videos. In fact, interestingly that you say is that before these two incidents happened, I was like, yesterday itself I had written a story that between 2015 and 2020, the ISIS has put out 2,400 different videos of beheading. So these are circulated deep, they've gone inside, and groups like ISIS will try to target these, second tier cities or the hinterland, because, their interest is clearly not Kashmir because of the international diplomacy involved in it, and, the global issues. And, there is also space for outfits like Lashkar, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen. So, tier 2 cities, when you go to attack, what happens is the penetration is so deep that it starts becoming very, very frightening. It's like, it's coming closer and closer to us. And so what I would think is that, it's really time to watch on certain pockets in areas, within Udaipur also, there are certain pockets, highly set of, radicalized people and things like that. You need to start watching areas, and also build literally an army of intelligence officers to, sit and scan our social media, which is where all this radicalization and, this kind of content is coming up.
Understood. So I'll just come to Vikram Singh ji and try to understand from him, after the issues that you have flagged, what it means for the social fabric, for the security of the country. Vikram Singh, we were just hearing Vicky telling us about this new challenge that is appearing on the horizon. You know better than any of us, sir, that in tier 2, tier 3 cities, it is a fact that the intelligence network may not be as robust as it is in our bigger cities, the metropolitan state capitals, etc. At the same time, these are also very densely populated towns, and with the social media becoming a hydra-headed challenge, how much of a challenge do you think this can pose in providing security to the people to prevent any kind of these lone wolf attacks? And also, how is it that global terror networks manage to penetrate to this level through their local contacts?
That was a very lucid explanation given by Vicky ji, and my task has been rendered very simple. Terrorism, like cancer, erupts wherever the ecosystem is weak, whether it is tier 2 or whether it's tier 3 or anywhere. It is unpredictable. It can happen anywhere, and the ecosystem has to be rural. When I say ecosystem, it means intelligence and policing and the response. In both the cases of Amravati and Udaipur, Smitaji, it's my painful duty to bring before both of you what the police lapses were, where we were caught on the wrong foot in both the places. The intelligence was there, we chose not to react. And when we chose to react, it was absolutely a knee-jerk and an unprofessional response. Of course, I have to take another show to talk about the lapses committed in Udaipur. Amravati too, we would not go into but there were horrific lapses, and if I had been in the position of authority, I would have suspended all the police officers there responsible. In Amravati, they couldn't have done worse other than to cover it up, and in Udaipur, to address the victim rather than the aggressors. They did not.
So do you think, sir, do you think that our policing, the state of our police intelligence network is not equipped to deal with such challenges, whereas the global networks are, updating themselves every moment?
They have a 24/7 R&D. We also have, but they have a purpose and they have the killer instinct, and we did not, I'm sorry to say, that display the killer instinct. 2008 is the year of watershed when the country got the smartphones. Vicky ji would be able to tell us 2008, terrorism either in Kashmir and wherever, the smartphone became an instrument and an instrument of weaponization and also crowdfunding and collection of people all over. But I cannot say that we are helpless spectators. We have the knack of deep learning, getting artificial intelligence and also other IT tools that can take us where we need to go. But what about Udaipur? What about Amravati? Everything was there served on a silver platter, and if we choose to look the other way, let us blame ourselves, not the technology. Second, where was the reason to allow the PFI to give, allow a procession in Kota, again a tier 2 city? Why was the reason of all the police? Why PFI was given? My only question as a traditional police officer and as a nationalist is, why was the reason given to PFI to take out a position? And also, is it rocket science? My last submission is that we should have fast track courts, ensure that every person who gives a hate speech, every person who beheads should be brought on the smart court, the fast track courts. Judgment should be given in 30 working days, and whatever the punishment should be ensured in the next 15 days. 45 days is all that we require. Certainty of punishment is the biggest guarantee to prevent such crime. Nothing else, nothing more. All these first timers who are emerging like mushrooms all over the place, they can be addressed if we have that determination. A resolute nation cannot be taken for granted and pushed around the way we are being pushed around now.
Mr. Singh, thank you. That was very enlightening, sir. And you have very rightly pointed out that the challenge, the fight to stop terror does not end with just a robust intelligence, but we have to ensure quick justice and punishment to the guilty so that the fear of the law can be ingrained in the minds of those who may be planning another terror attack. But on that note, sir, I just want to quickly bring back Vicky on another aspect of this challenge, which he has also flagged and we have also been noticing for some time now. Vicky, coming back to you, if you remember, it may be that there were no beheadings in the brutal manner that we saw in Udaipur. However, there have been these incidents like the protest marches back to back, one after another, mostly in these small and middle level cities. At the same time, all the signs of radicalization have been there for some time now. Therefore, do you think we may have been delayed in our reaction to, nip it in the bud? And also, something, there's a lot which also falls on the shoulders of the common citizens. The normal vigilance that is required so that these terror networks, because certainly the police cannot be keeping an eye on every single citizen all the time. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. Smitaji, the thing is, one thing I see is, say there is a West Bengal model of policing and there is a Rajasthan model of policing and there was a Maharashtra model of policing. Now, I think, that thing has to stop, number one. Because, each one, the thing is, if they're going to play according to the narrative of
Vicky, allow me to stop you here. in my views, and Vikram Singh ji will be a better judge of this comment, policing is about giving protection and ensuring the constitutional rights of the citizens. So I fail to understand these various models that you are trying to point out. If you could be, just briefly tell us what do you mean.
What I mean is that, see, the writing is on the wall. The thing is, if you see, I take the Amravati case for that matter. I don't know whom they were trying to please by, trying to just, shy away from the fact and admitting that there was actually a terror module out there. Okay. And it is only once the government changed that the whole investigation changed after that. So that is what I'm saying. The job of the police is to give absolute protection, It's not, to play politics at times, saying that, this may hurt one community, this may not hurt one community. And that is what I meant by the Maharashtra model in particular at that time when they were trying to hush up that case as dacoity, when they knew that 35,000 rupees was still lying there with the deceased. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to say. The first job should be to that. And to come to the next question of, these kind of protests and all that happening, I've been seeing a common pattern is that, there is some issue, government will, announce something, and then, after that there is a social media outage, it goes and then it starts getting spread on WhatsApp and things like that. When these kind of protests happen and, suddenly turning violent, like in the anti-CA protests, if you see in Mangalore how violent it became, now again a tier 2 city, that is one thing, how violent it became, and the people ready to kill and things like that. I think a quicker job of identifying these elements and, bringing them to justice. And as Sir was, pointing out, the thing is of fast-tracking the court. Like if I say these two killers in this Udaipur case, all through the NI investigation, they say nothing but, they have only one question for the NI. Are we going to be hanged or are we going to get a life sentence? So it is that casual they are about it. They're not bothered or they're not remorseful or something like that. And when they see punishments being doled out immediately, say trial in 30 days and then in the next 30 days without any further delay, and when the law starts acting really very fast, as Sir pointed out, it is going to be a very, very, very big deterrent. That is what I
Okay, so let me also ask him, since he has headed a vibrant police force, how does he think we can go further on this? Mr. Vikram Singh, as Vicky was also pointing out, the political pressures, and we know, and it's a given, that the police is supposed to be community neutral, religion neutral, caste neutral force. However, there is also some onus which falls on the citizens of the country to remain vigilant and to ensure that anything that might be suspicious, that is not above board, must be pointed out at the right moment. In your view, Sir, how can a common citizen help in trying to fight this challenge of terror? Because now it is becoming increasingly clear that it is not between the security forces and the terrorists. It is now like every common citizen of the country is a soldier in this fight against terror.
$1 billion observation. Smita ji, $1 billion observation from you. As in Israel, every civilian is a police officer in plain clothes, and unless that happens, you have to be alert. And what is known in the intelligence world as SARS, Suspicious Activity Reporting System, every suspicious activity, like going to Nepal, Bangladesh and Pakistan multiple times, having amassed inexplicable wealth in 12 months, and then having suspicious people coming over, these matters need to be reported to the police. So there is a repository of intelligence inputs. Yes, you very rightly mentioned the 3 points. Policing has to be community neutral. We belong to everyone and everyone belongs to us. Equitable application and unfair and unsparing application of rules and laws, very true, but is it done? Smita ji, let me tell you, I have not harmed anyone, but yes, I have harmed all the terrorists that came my way and in the way of my country. To that extent, perhaps I and Brijlal, member of Rajya Sabha, and my commandos of the Special Task Force were inconvenient, and a fake case of murder was registered against us. A retired DGP, a serving DG officer, officers and the commandos of the Special Task. Why? Because a terrorist died of a heat stroke outside the Barabanki courts. The absurd lengths where to certain political outfits would go to fix and give a lesson. Don't you dare look this way, otherwise there will be consequences.
Forgive me, Mr. Singh, But it has been my observation that whenever an extra vigilant citizen tries to point out something fishy going on in his or her neighborhood or office, at the workplace or in the marketplace, this whole system starts about, why people are infringing upon each other's privacy, why are they trying to poke their noses into everybody's affairs. So on the one hand is the challenge of having a secure nation, a safe country for our children, and on the other, this question of this debate over rights and privacy, etc. So where is the meeting ground, sir?
Let me tell you, again, you have put a billion-dollar observation. It is not in our interest to create nosy parkers. It has to be structures within the ambit of something very, very thorough, meticulous and scientific that is known as the community policing experiment. Every citizen is converted into a trained police officer and intelligence operator so that where there is no infringement of privacy, but anything that goes within the ambit of a suspicious activity reporting system does not go unnoticed and brought to the right officers, to the right quarters, so that it is verified and action taken before any damage is done to society and to the nation. My another point to that people who are indoctrinated and are brazen about whether it's going to be a death sentence or a life imprisonment, let me tell you, I have spent the better part of my career interrogating the die-hard terrorists from the Al-Qaeda and other tanzeems and also the ISI operatives. This bravado has a shelf life of around 72 hours or at best 5 days. Thereafter, they are as I would say, broken as any other accused would be, and they beg for mercy of the law enforcement agencies. Therefore, my advice to police and investigators would be patient and work on them. And the taste of the pudding lies in fact, look to the Udaipur case when these accused were being brought to the prison vans and the abject terror on their faces when the public pounced upon them. I certainly say that it is deprecable and should never happen. Those in our custody should be treated with respect and their legal rights. But the fact that they were absolutely brazen and indifferent to bodily harm, their faces tell it all when the people surrounded them.
That is a very profound point to tell us for the benefit of our viewers, that no matter how much bravado they may display, but all these terrorists, they have a certain shelf life, their bravado also has a certain shelf life, and they can never get the better of our security forces. But on that note, sir, I am afraid I shall have to end this conversation here. I have completely run out of time, and one of these days we shall have a more detailed discussion on the same subject. As Mr. Vikram Singh pointed out, we now have to reach that stage where every citizen of the country must realize that he or she is a soldier in this battle, this war against terrorism, and must behave accordingly. At the same time, the right systems have to be put in place, technically and otherwise, to facilitate this same thing. Only then can we get the better of these terror networks, which are always trying to upgrade themselves in order to shatter our peace, our harmony, to damage our social fabric. On that note, Mr. Vikram Singh ji, thank you very much for finding the time. I know you were tied up badly, and yet you found the opportunity, the time. Thank you again, sir. Also, Vicky Nanjappa, always ready to be on our show whenever we have requested you. Thank you so much for your valuable inputs, and we shall come back to you on that.
Thank you, Smita ji. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
With that, it's a wrap up on Media Scan for this evening. But be alert, viewers, and keep watching DD India as we shall continue to scan the media for you. Namaskar.